Wow. Look what we did. Look at the teamwork. How amazing. How inspirational. Well, there's a bunch of news tonight, I guess. Apparently Canada is wants to recognize Palestinian statehood. So if they do, I don't think it will be long before the rest of like the constitutional monarchies follow stead, right? Because Australia and New Zealand will definitely be on board, and the UK as well, because kind of once, you know, we used to have Lizzie and now we've got Charles as our head of state. Weird how the Anglo countries are all doing this at once. I think it's very coordinated. I think it's very coordinated so that Trump doesn't chuck a toddler tantrum, right? Because it's spread too far across, because obviously we've got like the Australasian constitutional monarchies of Australia and New Zealand, and then they've got Canada and then the UK, so it's spread across the Atlantic and it's also spread across the South Pacific. And I think it's too much for him to try and, you know, jerry-rig some type of revenge like on the fly. I think that's why you think it feels more sinister. I think it can only be a good thing. I mean, there's been, I don't know how many votes in my lifetime there's been on recognizing a Palestinian statehood, and America's allies always abstain because they don't want to piss off America. And that's the reason why they always abstain. And then America vetoes it anyway. But, yeah, I think it can only be a good thing, because if Palestine's recognized internationally as a sovereign nation, it's going to change a lot of things, especially, ICC prosecution and things like that. It's going to make international law a lot easier to apply. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it can only be a move in the right direction. I just hate that people are starving and dying. And you know, they are in other countries as well, obviously, not just Palestine, but I would like it if it wasn't happening anywhere. Cuz, you know, I just think, like, to me, like, the left-right paradigm is kind of obsolete at this point. For me, I'm just like, well, morally is something right or wrong, and that's what I go with. But most of my moral determinations seem to fall, you know, within the left wing sphere of things. But yeah, I don't know. But some left-wing people can, like, say some pretty horrific things, you know, and that's what happens when you stick to an ideology, like, so tightly, you know. It can sometimes mean that you morally make a bad decision. So that's, you know, just try and not be a cunt, I think, is the way to go through life. Try not to be an arsehole to people. Try and make a moral decision. Talk about getting shot waiting for food. You fall into that trap sometimes. Well, yeah, I know people that, you know, they're like, oh, I'm a socialist or I'm a communist or blah, 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 blah. And then they'll defend some really morally horrific things just because, you know, that particular philosophy or that particular ideology says, you know. And it's just like, yeah, don't do that. Like, you can agree with something like 90% and then just reject the shit. A kid was shot today. I haven't looked at anything yet, Ricochet, but yeah, that would not surprise me. It's obviously something that's been happening for a while. It's really disgusting, and it really needs to stop. But maybe after the Anglosphere, I don't even like saying Anglosphere, I'm just gonna say the constitutional monarchies of King Charles III, because I think that's more accurate. Hello, hooligan. I think once we all recognize a Palestinian state, it might be feasible to have some type of peacekeeping mission of a coalition of, you know, the UK, of New Zealand, of Australia, of Canada. It might be feasible to get some type of peacekeeping, you know, joint army, air force operation, navy operation to go, you know, all the royal forces get together and go storm the beaches of Gaza, but with food. and they'll also have guns. And if the IDF want to F around, they would find out. I mean, that would be the ideal situation, because Trump's not going to do anything to stop them. He can't attack all his allies. He can't attack all of his allies to defend Israel. It's just not going to work. But this is what needs to be done. Something that extreme needs to get done. I'm all right, Hooligan. How are you? Excuse me, I'm just sipping on some tea because I have a sore throat. All right, let's watch the video.
Another step towards recognising Palestine, but is yet to commit to doing so. Let's head now to our political reporter Isabel Rowe, who's in Canberra for us. Hi there, Isabel. So what does this mean for Australia's position?
Well, this is no doubt some of that international momentum that government MPs have been talking about this morning and in recent days. As you say, the UK, France and now Canada have made this move. It undoubtedly puts pressure on Australia to declare its position. Now, Anthony Albanese spoke about this yesterday. He talked about, of course, supporting a two-state solution. He's talked about doing that, though, based on some preconditions. He doesn't want to put a timeline to it. He says when he does it, he wants it to have some sort of outcome, some positive outcome for the Palestinian people. Now, we also signed on to a statement yesterday with 14 other nations that talked about the intention of those joint foreign affairs ministers to recognise a Palestinian state at some point in the future. The Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, said this morning it really is just a matter of time.
It's a matter of when, not if, Australia recognises.
It's kind of urgent. It is kind of urgent. It is kind of, you know, a time-sensitive issue, mate. Don't know if you've noticed this, but people are dying. Just want to put that out there. Just want to put that out there, mate. People are dying. So get cracking.
A Palestinian state. Well, I don't want to put a time frame on it. It's been a long-standing bipartisan policy that we see a two-state solution in that part of the Middle East. From my point of view, that progress that is being made, that momentum that we're seeing in the international community is welcome, but it's also conditional.
We've also heard from the Prime Minister's office this morning that Anthony Albanese has spoken to the UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. They have had a phone call, and Anthony Albanese's office says that Sir Keir Starmer...
Party policy, they kicked Fatma Payment out when she supported it. Yeah, they did. They did. Look, crossing the floor is... Yeah, when you cross the floor like that, you pretty much know that there's a good chance you're going to get expelled from the party. So, I mean, I think, she definitely knew that that was probably going to be the outcome, and she did it anyway. And look, like, senators get 6 years in the Senate, so, you know, she's kind of locked in for 2 government terms in the Senate anyway, even as an independent. So, and you know, she tried to start her own party. I know, I think it was, what was it, A Muslim Voice? Was that the name of the party? They were campaigning pretty hard where I grew up, like around Western Sydney, which is pretty Australia Voice. Oh, was it? Maybe my brain just made it up. Maybe because all the people that I know that were talking about it were Muslim, so I just assumed it was a Muslim party. But yeah, they were campaigning really hard in Western Sydney where I grew up. I saw that they were going for some pretty safe Labor seats. But yeah, it's I'm trying to think of the member for Shifley's name. It's evading me right now, but he's also Muslim. Why can't I think of his name? Shifley? Chisholm? It's Chisholm, right? Mount Druitt is Chisholm? Oh, I can't remember. My brain's hurting. Should I Google that? I'll Google that. Member. Oh. I think it's Chisholm. No, not Chisholm. Oh, they changed all the seats. Garland? No. Yeah, no, my brain's gone, guys. Don't worry about me. Chisholm is in Victoria. Okay, what am I thinking of then? Is it Shifley? Getting all my things mixed up. Go having dyslexia. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. It was Chifley. I got it right the first time. I don't want the map. I want the minister. Assuming it's still the same one. Ed Husick. Ed Husick. That's who I was thinking of. I did say Chifley first, right? And then I corrected myself. You know what? Chisholm was in the news a lot because I live in Victoria. That's why I got it mixed up. I did get it right the first time. Yeah, Ed Husick. He's also a practicing Muslim he's been in the Labour Party for a really long time. Yeah, I think if they both had to cross the floor together, they probably wouldn't have got in trouble. That's my understanding. But he's been advocating for Palestine pretty hard, like in caucus is my understanding that he's been, you know, doing that. So I don't know. Sometimes I think I understand why she crossed the floor, and I'm not casting any aspersions on anything. I'm just, you know, sometimes it's better to stay in the party and advocate from within the party. But you know, she did send a really strong message, and I think she's only in her 20s, right? Like, she's still really young, and she's probably going to have, you know, a political career ahead of her if she wants it, and she'll probably be able to do some things. But obviously, like, the Labour Party is Australia's only political party that can form government and govern in its own right. So I just think, I don't know, like, with hindsight, I wonder if she kind of regrets leaving, just because, you know, being in a party that can be the governing party kind of does give you a little bit more influence. But yeah, I was trying to remember Ed Husick's name, and it was just going out of my brain. Like, it was just falling out. You feel like most of Labor's lost members are young and impatient. Well, I know, like, a lot of the Greens party members are people that used to be Labor members and defected. Like, Adam Bant used to be a Labor member, and then he like he had a tantrum when he was never going to get a pre-selection, so he went in for a seat. And like, it's people, a lot of them are people that like had their eyes on political power and they were never going to get it. The same with that double-barreled last name soft hands guy in Queensland. Don't know his name, but he looks like he puts on moisturizer after he gets out of the shower. I'm just saying that. I liked when he was like Maxi Poos, Beef Wellington, or whatever his name is, Beef Wellington the third. Yeah, when he was like talking to the CFMEU, and he like put on he's like, oh, what are my working class clothes? And he was wearing like a black t-shirt, and it's like, mate, you wouldn't last one day on a job site. You would not last one day. You would not. He'd be like, oh no, I need my Nivea nighttime cream. That was funny. It was funny.
Laid out his framework that the UK plans to use to recognise the state of Palestine. The leaders discussed aid. They discussed this international momentum, those words again, towards trying to get to a ceasefire and the shared goals of those nations.
All right. I'm so mean to people that I don't like. I need to stop. All right, global push to recognise Palestinian state at the United Nations Assembly.
There's growing momentum among Western powers to recognise Palestinian statehood. Canada will join France and the United Kingdom in making the declaration at the UN General Assembly in September. At this stage, the Albanese government isn't following suit, but has confirmed.
Nah, he's got until September. You can do it. You can do it, mate. We believe in you. We believe in you. You can do it.
It's a matter of when, not if. Here's National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman.
First France, then Britain, now Canada.
Canada intends to recognise the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September.
Big Western powers.
Come on. And now the Anzacs, we have to do it Australia and New Zealand. Remember when we stormed the beaches of Gallipoli together? Well, I don't, because I obviously wasn't there. But you know what I mean. We can do it. We have the genetic memory. We have not the genetic memory, but we have the national memory. We can, we can do it. It's who we are as a people. Although that war was completely pointless. And why were we storming beaches in Turkey when we live in Australia and New Zealand? Who knows? Well, we know, for the British Empire. But I digress. Don't get me off on tangents, guys. I have ADHD. The struggle is real. All right, let's go.
Applying maximum pressure on Israel as the Arab world abandons Hamas. For the first time, the entire Arab League signing a UN statement demanding the militant group disarm and surrender control over Gaza. A coordinated international effort to end the war.
The level of human suffering in Gaza is intolerable.
We welcome the momentum towards a pathway to peace.
The Australian government's growing increasingly alarmed, but isn't following allies in recognising Palestinian statehood yet.
I have been.
Why do you think we're dragging our feet? Penny Wong. Well, yeah. Yes. I would make a joke, but I think it would be inappropriate. So I'm not gonna say the joke that just popped into my head, but you have zero respect for her now? Such a letdown? Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of people only advocate for things that benefit them, She was pretty vocal when it was like, recognizing gay and lesbian rights. She's pretty vocal about that, right? Because she's in a same-sex relationship. But if you can only, empathize for a group that you belong to or advocate for a group that you belong to, I think it kind of does make you a bit of a to be honest. I think it kind of does make you a bit of a dickhead. Liberal Party will take the media narrative immediately. Yeah, they already have. They've already taken the ball and running towards the try line. It's
saying it's a matter of when, not if.
A question contingent on certain conditions being met.
Whether it's the release of the hostages, making sure that there is absolutely no role for Hamas in the future leadership of Palestine.
We will be completely opposed to a premature recognition of a Palestinian state.
The opposition.
Notice how, Sinn Féin is active in Irish politics? That's really interesting. So I'm not, just saying this for any Twitch moderators listening or any YouTube moderators listening. I do not support Hamas. But I am just drawing a historical parallel. So Sinn Féin is the political arm of the Irish Republican Army that was designated a terrorist organization by most of the world, especially the UK. And the Sinn Féin party to this day, obviously Ireland has, independence. It has had independence probably, for a good 80 years now. Let me check. My maths is bad. What year is it? Anywho, Ireland does have independence. And it has for a while. But my point is, I hit my microphone up. My point is Sinn Féin and the IRA are intrinsically linked. They are essentially the same thing. And the Sinn Féin party has been the ruling party in Ireland. So 140-ish, yeah, but it only came into effect in the 40s. Irish independence didn't. It wasn't from the time of the treaty. There was a bit of time in between. I believe it was 1949 that Ireland actually became independent, if I'm not mistaken, but I would have to look that up to be 100% sure. I'm just bad at maths, guys. I'm not good at maths, but yeah, I like studying history. Irish history is super, super, super interesting, and there are so many good movies about Michael Collins is a really good movie about Michael Collins, obviously, and the Easter Uprising. Yeah, but it only let me check. I don't know if the word ratified is what I'm looking for, or implemented. In 1949, Ireland formally became a republic with the implementation of the Republic of Ireland Act. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. See, I knew I was right. I knew I was right. Look, I am a brain-dead bimbo, but I do actually read books. And, yes. Easter Monday, 1949. Marked the 33rd anniversary of the Easter Uprising. Look, I knew, okay, because my dad is so obsessed with history, so I grew up just constantly, you know. My dad didn't get the privilege of getting to actually go to school. I think he went to school for like 3 years, and then he just came from a really poor family, and he had to work. Like he had to labor as a literal child. But he's incredibly intelligent, and he liked to read a lot. Not that he had much time, but he was obsessed with history, and that's why, like, I became obsessed with history as well. I found it really interesting. There was always a documentary on TV that we were watching, or a book that he was reading that he would give to me to read afterwards. And my dad was, like, obviously very, very, very active in the MUA and then the CFMEU. The MUA was before I was born, but my dad was, like, friends with every major unionist in Sydney. Like, when I was little, I used to go to barbecues where there would be, like, you know, the secretary of, like, the ACTU there and things like that. Like, yeah, grew up, like, very close to the union movement. So it's, you know, it's something that I know a lot of those people. But yeah, I've never kind of used it to my advantage. I probably should try and network, but yeah. But my point is that the IRA and Sinn Féin are the same entity. This is Sinn Féin is a part of that's the political arm of the IRA, and they're allowed to form government, and they have formed government. They have been the ruling party in Ireland, you know, depending on whether or not they win the elections. So I don't think it's kind of okay for people to say, well, Hamas aren't allowed to have anything to do with Palestinian statehood, right? Because, like, Yasser Arafat has been the leader of Palestine before. Like, I just don't get how they're allowed to make that demand. They can perhaps say, okay, Hamas is not allowed to engage in any terroristic activities henceforth. You could say that we want Hamas to demilitarize, or we want Hamas to, you know, sign some type of pacifist constitution, or, you know, whatever it is, whatever you want to do. Perhaps you could make those demands, but I don't think you get to say, I just don't think you get to make those demands when historically we have examples of other sovereign nations, and this is in the 20th century. We're talking about last century, when all this stuff happened, right? Like, there were bombings. The IRA were bombing, like, London in, like, the 60s and 70s, and to this day, if you go to London, there's no bins anywhere. You try and throw away something when you're walking around London. When I was there, and I was with one of my dad's half siblings, and I asked them, I was like, oh, like I need to chuck out my rubbish. Like, where's the bin? And they're like, oh, we don't have bins because the IRA used to put bombs in them. And I was like, huh, all right, well, there you go, kids.
Sticking firmly to Australia's long-standing position for recognition to come after a Palestinian peace deal with Israel. Momentum is clearly building among Western nations to recognise Palestinian statehood before a two-state solution has been reached. Some within government say the pace has taken them by surprise. Either way, it's now broadly accepted that Australia will make this foreign policy shift, even if it's not bipartisan. Israel has condemned moves towards recognition. Mixed views too among Palestinian Australians.
Palestinians are not calling for recognition. Palestinians are calling for liberation and the right to self-determination.
The time is now Now that other Western powers are doing it, there's no excuse for Australia to not do it.
But hopes the Middle East might be on the cusp of a momentous shift. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
Canada's decision to recognise Palestinian statehood is part of a highly coordinated international strategy. Here's Global Affairs editor Laura Tingle.
Anthony Albanese says Australia doesn't have a great deal of direct influence in the Middle East, but has been working with like-minded countries.
Just because we don't have any power, just because we don't have any much clout, it doesn't mean that we can't make a symbolic gesture and do as much as we can with, you know, through our diplomatic avenues. I think at the very least what we should be doing, and what we should have done a long time ago, is expel diplomatic staff. Just kick them out. Just kick them out. Just freaking turf them. Do you know, I don't know how big the Israeli embassy is in Canberra, but let's look it up. I bet you it's big. I bet you it's big. Imagine how many like women fleeing domestic violence or homeless people could be housed there. Let's have a look. Let's see how big it is. Israeli embassy, Australia. Oh, it looks pretty. It looks pretty ritzy. Let's have a look. How big is it? Some legend standing out there with a Palestinian flag. Maybe if I write size. It's not specified. So apparently it can potentially house 11,000 people. Imagine 11,000 people in need of homes, just chilling out in the Israeli embassy. I bet it's nice. I mean, you'd have to go to Canberra, which, like, obviously Canberra sucks. As disgusting as Canberra is, it's still better than being homeless, guys. Like, yeah, I would definitely, as disgusting as Canberra is, I would definitely rather be in the Israeli embassy than on the streets. Just kick them out. Put some people that need housing in there. Off you go, dickheads. See ya, boy.
The series of announcements on recognising Palestinian statehood shows the extent of that international cooperation. Global leaders sense a tipping point has been reached in the much weakened political and military position of Hamas and in the collapsed moral authority of Israel. Faced with both sides' intransigence, world leaders know their influence has to be maximised. And so the strategy is to gradually ramp up the pressure on Israel, Hamas, but also on the United States. Significantly, the Arab states are intimately involved. The spectre of mass starvation and the acceleration of Israel's annexation of Palestinian territory have brought the question of recognition to a head. The focus is on finding interim arrangements on how a new state could actually be secured and governed amid the rubble of Gaza.
What did I do? Stop. Get some help. I think this is just another story about Canada, but I was just getting videos ready. This might have more information. I mean, really, the UK were the people that facilitated. England was the country that like facilitated the formation of Israel. So I kind of think I think they should clean up their mess, honestly. If anyone's got like the blood on their hands, it's definitely them. And then America kind of took over as like being the what do you call it? Like the arbiters of freaking poo heads.
The Canadian government signalling it will recognise a Palestinian state. The move has increased pressure on the Australian government to do so. The federal opposition says it doesn't support Australia following suit. However, the Treasurer says it's a matter of when, not if.
I don't want to put a time.
Well, if it's inevitable, just do it now. If it's inevitable, just do it now. I don't want to, when I eventually have kids, I don't want to have to explain to them why our country didn't do anything. Not to like bring out the freaking old, the the old platitudes, but it's freaking un-Australian. It's freaking un-Australian to sit there while something like this is happening and not say anything. Like, Australians call out people's bullshit. It's a national trait. It's one that bothers a lot of people that are pussies from pussy countries, that we will call you out on your shit. If you want to be a dickhead, we're going to call you a dickhead, right? And that's how it works, all right? Let's go.
On it. It's been a long-standing bipartisan policy that we see a two-state solution in that part of the Middle East. From my point of view, that progress that is being made, that momentum that we're seeing in the international community is welcome, but it's also conditional. There are a number of obstacles still in the way to recognition of a Palestinian state. For example, the treatment, the release of the hostages, making sure that there's absolutely no role for Hamas. These are the sorts of things that the international community is working through. The reason we want to see a two-state solution is because Israeli families and Palestinian families need and deserve to be able to raise their kids in peace.
Jim Chalmers there. Well, Global Affairs editor Laura Tingle joins me now in the studio. Laura, what's your reaction to Jim Chalmers' comments there? Are these more strident comments than we've heard previously from the government?
You don't believe anyone who's talking about drawing borders? Well, I mean, if you recognise a Palestinian state, you would have to define a Palestinian state. It can't be just some pie in the sky rhetorical like thing. It has to. Yeah, well, state recognition would mean that you recognize this as a sovereign territory, right? Under international law, the recognition of a state as legitimate means that therefore it would have the right to self-determination. Like whatever type of apartheid tiered, citizenry or whatever wouldn't be able to exist. And like, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at West Bank and Gaza as being Palestine? Like, what are we looking at? And yeah, this would be something that the international community would have to oversee, right? Because we obviously can't leave this to Israel. We obviously, like, I don't know. I don't see this conflict coming to an end with any type of statehood for Palestine unless like-minded countries get together. And I would like to see it be Australia, New Zealand, the UK and Canada. I would like to see that. I think that would be something to aspire to. I think that would be something that would be great.
Well, Catherine, the position of the government has actually been when not if for some time, as in that's what Penny Wong signalled a shift with, I think about April last year. But the crucial thing, of course, is always context. So when the Treasurer says when not if at a time like this, when obviously, there's this momentum building internationally, it takes on a new significance.
I want to ask you about what you make of this building momentum that we're seeing. Canada has now followed France with the UK in this plan for recognition at the UN General Assembly. Just how coordinated do you think this international approach is?
I think it's really coordinated. I think it seems to have been underway since the beginning of the year.
And I said that. I said they're all on the back channels together. They're all on the back channels to each other. So little Trump doesn't know what they're doing. And it may well be that given America's history of overthrowing Labor governments that push back on America's agenda even slightly, it may even be that in the 11th hour, when we have our UN delegates at the UN, they already know that they are going to vote to recognize a Palestinian state. They just don't want to broadcast it because, well, we know what happened to Whitlam and we know what happened to Rudd. And maybe that is just playing it safe because America has its little spies. Believe it or not, there are some Australians that are taking payments from the CIA. They're in both political parties. And they are America's. And honestly, I don't believe in the death penalty, all right? But I don't know. I'm just saying, if you f over your country like that, like either go live in America and just take American doodles up your whatever orifice you enjoy. I don't know what your preference is. Well, I wouldn't sleep with somebody that would betray their country. But, whatever you're into, mate, just go over there and freaking get... Anyway, I'm going to calm down because This could go off on some gross graphic tangents. So deep breath, calm blue ocean. All right. Let's calm down. All right. But yeah, we know that America has people on the payroll in both political parties, and they will do what they have to do when they are told to do it. So let's just calm down.
Largely led by France and Saudi Arabia. The role of the Arab nations hasn't really been highlighted all that much so far, but without a doubt, a big concern has been, you know, that everyone wanted to get some sort of resolution to stop the killing in Gaza, and, you know, hopefully some, you know, bigger picture solution. But that they've seen, and we see this in the language of the various leaders who've spoken, that the opportunities to actually have something that resembles a state are slipping away with all the actions by Israel to annex more and more properties in the West Bank and also in Gaza, and they've escalated that. So on top of the humanitarian crisis, there's this need to act, and without a doubt, I think you're seeing this rollout of statements rather than everybody just coming out and saying, look, we'll recognise Palestine now.
Yeah, what are the significance of those statements? We've seen Australia sign on to the Foreign Minister one. There was also one out of New York as well.
Yes, there's been this big conference going on in New York, once again led by France and the Saudis. That conference made a much bigger statement which was signed by about 18 countries, including Qatar, which I think is really significant. The Foreign Minister statement, which we signed on, was a little bit more assertive, but I think clearly that statement from the Foreign Ministers was designed to sort of support the two countries who at that stage had come out, which was France and the UK. We've now seen the Canadians come out overnight, and it's interesting to see how they're all sort of pushing the various parties in slightly different ways. France and the UK were putting the pressure on Israel, but we've seen Mark Carney really sort of honing in on the Palestinian Authority and the need for it to get its act together.
Yeah, and so all these statements and ideas about the progression towards Palestinian statehood comes with all of these conditions. Do you think that these conditions will be an impediment?
Of course they will be.
The conditions are a bit of a saving face exercise in the sense that you can't really believe that when Keir Starmer laid down those conditions for Israel, there was any expectation in the UK Foreign Office that Israel would meet any of them, just given the belligerence of its stance, particularly amongst the far-right members of the government. So I think that the conditions aren't really an impediment. But
it's so interesting that, you know, the Labor Party have kind of, in the modern era, been the champion of First Nations Australians, right? Saying sorry, you know, putting the voice to Parliament, to a referendum, doing all these things. But when it comes to an Indigenous people, the Indigenous people of Palestine, like, where is the advocacy for them to have, you know, native title, if you will? Where is the advocacy for them to have their homeland, which, you know, they are Indigenous to, genetically they are Indigenous to. And, you know, there are some Arab Jews that are Indigenous to that area, like Sephardic Jews are Indigenous to that area. But Ashkenazi Jews, they come from the same countries as my foremothers and forefathers, right? They come from Russia, they come from Poland, they come from Czechia, Slovakia, you know, all of the Western and Eastern Slavic countries. That's where they come from. That's where they're Indigenous to.
They are giving all the parties some room to move of their own volition if they so choose, but it's quite clear now where things are heading. And of course, the significance of what's happened now is we've now got 4 out of 5 members of the Security Council saying that they're going to back statehood. The only standout is the US. Now,
which is going to be my last question to you. Yeah, where does this leave the US?
Well, it leaves it pretty isolated. Now, we know that Donald Trump doesn't have a very high opinion of the UN, but he also doesn't like images of violence, and he also wants to be seen to be leading the world, not being dragged along. So I think it's as much a pincer movement on the United States as it is on the various parties in the dispute.
Let's have a look at the voting record. Actually, let's have a look at the voting record for Palestinian statehood. We should be able to find it pretty easily.